Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. My name is Trevor Lane. Happy to see y'all here to kick off the weekend with some NBA trade talks. Joining me as always, it's my guy Donnie Freeman, aka D Free. Donnie, how you doing? Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday to you as well. I just got inside, ran upstairs, so I'm a little bit winded, but I'm doing pretty good. I was super late. Had to also switch with my wife so she can go get my daughter right now. And she's like, "You're late," because if we get there late because there's no parking and all this, I'm like, "Man, I'm sorry." Okay, dang. So anyway, I'm happy to be up.
So you're getting your cardio in, is what you're saying. You're getting your cardio for the day in, and you and Gabe Vincent, you're on the same wavelength, huh?
We're always on the same wavelength. That's my guy.
Getting that cardio in. No, Gabe's been much better. He's no longer Captain Cardio. We've got a lot to talk about out there on the trade market. I thought it'd be a good way to kind of kick off the weekend and just go live and take some questions, some comments as we're getting through everything. But so if you're just joining us, make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, we'd love to have you. And, we've got the trade deadline coming up now in less than 2 weeks, February 6th. We're going to keep everybody up to date on all the various news, all the rumors, everything like that, as well as throw in a lot of our opinion on stuff as well. Let's start, though, with this, Donnie, the 76ers. There's a rumor out there right now that the 76ers might pivot to be sellers on the trade market. Just given how terribly their season has gone, we take a look at the standings and where they're currently at right now. They're the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference. Remember, their pick, it's top 6 protected. So that could put some players on the market that maybe we weren't expecting to see out there. Notably, Brett Siegel has a piece where he talks about Kelly Oubre Jr., Caleb Martin, and KJ Martin potentially being available if the 76ers decide to blow this thing up, lose as many games as they can, and hope that they can get that top 6 pick to stay with them. What do you think? Should teams have interest in Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, KJ Martin, guys like that?
Oh wow, that's for one. That's how the mighty have fallen, man. My God, going into this season with the expectations they had, potentially being sellers is crazy.
Right.
But yeah, they're all wing players on value contracts. I think any team that's looking for more wing depth should be in on these guys for different reasons. They do different things, but Caleb, I think, is pretty interesting as well because that's the one from the Heat, right? I always get them mixed up, but that's the one from the Heat, right?
These are all Sixers.
No, the year prior.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how he's playing here now. Maybe it's some Miami Black Magic, but he could potentially be interesting as well.
So when I'm looking at these guys, these are Michael says NBA front office, Lakers Nation basketball bulletin. The grind doesn't stop. It's busy this time of year.
Yeah,
it's busy this time of year around here. But yeah, these are interesting pieces, I think, especially because we've heard so much about the wings or the bigs out there on the market. There've been a lot of bigs out there on the market right now. We'll talk about them in just a bit, but there are a number of wings that I think teams could certainly use. And so these guys are all players that could have interest. Now, I don't think they suddenly become like first round draft capital is going out to get these guys, but Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, reasonable contract here for Caleb Martin, but a long-term deal. Kelly Oubre, just $8 million this season, but then a player option for next year. KJ Martin, $0 guaranteed. That might not be a bad contract to put out there. And if I think the big thing for the Sixers is if they're going to do this, if they're really going to try to lose, they have to really lose. Like they have to lose a lot of games, and they got to do it quickly because the tank race, it is serious. And oh my gosh, Donnie, look right now. If the draft were to happen right now and everything stayed chalk, the 76ers.
Oh my God. They got to lose now.
I'm out. Right? The 76ers would send the 7th pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Good Lord.
That's hilarious. That's so funny to me. Like that. And theirs is top 6 protected, right?
It's top 6 protected.
That's great. So the good is that they're not too far off. The thing about the Sixers, though, that puts them in a unique position is that unlike other teams that would want to pivot, the Sixers kind of have a built-in excuse because their guys have been injury prone anyway. They could just be like, yeah, We're going to mail it in. NBA, don't fine us. Don't do your stars sitting rules, all that stuff. Who cares? These guys are always out. Just give them time to rehab and say, this isn't our year. Come back and be better next year. Now, the star players probably wouldn't be in on that, of course, but the Sixers as an organization could potentially do something like that. But it's just a weird spot to be in because they had high hopes this year and it just not panned out. And the undertone of that is that they gave Paul George a freaking max extension, which is crazy. So, getting this pick would help bolster their depth, whoever it is, of course. But, I'm sure this team is still the players anyway, still looking forward to potentially making a run this year. And I still think that if they happen to be healthy, which may be a tall task, right? And they get into the playoffs, no matter the seed, they would be a tough out if they're playing the way that they potentially could be playing.
Oh, could you imagine if the Sixers walked away with the top pick in the draft? Like that would completely turn around their everything. If they suddenly got Cooper Flagg or someone like that, like they would be, which isn't impossible right now, but still, they have not had luck on their side this season. So that makes me think, man, they really will give up that 7th pick or 8th pick or something like that.
Yeah. If they mess around and kept this pick, tanked this year, and go into next year with like the top pick and got whoever that is, they may be in a position where they could potentially pivot their franchise if they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
That's a deeper conversation, but I don't know how much longer their window is potentially anyway. Like it's probably a couple years at best. That's the way I see it.
Let me ask you this. Look at Joel Embiid, look at Paul George, look at those contracts. Is anybody trading for those right now? Right now in the year 2025, they just signed Paul George. Is anybody trading for those contracts?
Paul George, I think his skill set will age fine. He's a shooter, he can do all that, but there's no way in big 27, 28, he's going to be worth $56 million. There's just no way. Because I know that's like what 30% of the cap that year, but that's still not worth it. It's just crazy. And quietly, I'm questioning whether Embiid would be worth that 64, 69. Like I know we talked about this before. I know who Embiid is now when he's healthy, but I am very, very, very worried about his long-term outlook, his long-term health. He's already 30. He's an older 30 because of all the injuries he's had throughout his entire career. I'm really concerned about 34, 35-year-old Embiid and the level of production he can give you.
Yeah,
this could get messy. This could get really messy.
And I don't want to make it all doom and gloom, but yeah, this has not gone the way the 76ers wanted it to. And so if they decided to pivot and be sellers on the market, it wouldn't shock me one bit. I think you can make the argument that they should do that's just the hand they've been dealt. But man, certainly not where we expected the 76ers to be when we were heading into this season. We thought this was a team that could potentially really make a push and maybe even win a title this year. And now here they are far from it. And we're questioning how ugly the future could get. Now they still have Tyrese Maxey. He's a phenomenal young player. If they get a top 6 pick this year, their fortunes could change very, very, very quickly here.
Absolutely.
That is still within the realm of possible outcomes here. But man, I think there will be few teams as nervous on draft lottery night as the 76ers right now.
They still got McCain as well, who was playing really good before he got injured. I think there's a version of this where their outlook next year looks really good, but that's why I kind of said, they might as well just kind of pack it up. It's like I said, it's a tough sell for the stars and stuff. And it's also tough to say, I'm concerned about their long-term health but say, let's run it back when all these guys are a year older. That's also a concern too. But I think this team has upside. They've just got to be out there and be healthy. And that's been their Achilles heel. But if they wind up getting a lottery pick next year, if they are able to keep their pick and, they have a couple options with that at that point, maybe, that window between draft and the lottery, they could maybe shop that pick if they're able to trade it. I'm not sure, but that's one of the things that could potentially be there for them too. But they could potentially be pretty good next year. But like I said, this year they could be a tough out too if they decide to just kind of keep things as they are.
So let's take a look. One of the things I want to look at, the 76ers, they do have to consider selling. That's the rumor that's out there right now, is that they may pivot and become a seller, just like the Pistons have pivoted, and they're probably going to be a buyer on the market because of how well their season has gone. The 76ers may flip to being a buyer. When you look at the standings right now, obviously there's some clear sellers when we take a peek at this. being, of course, the Wizards. No question. Oh my God, the Wizards are so bad. They're so bad. The Raptors, the Hornets, they should be. They've already sold on Nick Richards. The Nets are already big time sellers. The Sixers may get there. The Bulls probably should sell, but have the Bulls already won too many games? Like, is Chicago just going to do the same treadmill team BS all over again? Like it sure looks like that right now.
It's crazy.
Oh man, it must suck to be a Bulls fan right now.
They're in the same boat as Philly, aren't they? Where they've got a protected pick. That could
their pick is top 10 protected.
Exactly.
So take a look at this right now. By the skin of their teeth, they're just hanging on to it. It's top 10 protected. They're they'd have the 9th pick if the draft stays chalk right now.
If it goes as expected, that's crazy.
Right.
What happens if the ping pong balls bounce the other way and they get 11?
Then it's on the way out. Then it goes to San Antonio.
Crazy. Yeah, they should be trying to lose. I think they'll get off of at least Vucevic. There's obviously some stuff about Levine that came out today. Maybe that's a thing, but I think they for sure should be trying to sell, because that's crazy that they're like right on the cusp right there. But they've got time, I think.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought up Vucevic, because I want to talk about the bigs on the market, and Vucevic is somebody who just came up. So let's get into that. The bigs on the market right now does feel like a lot of this trade deadline, it's revolving around the bigs that are out there. I mean, Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, yes, the big names, no question, and we'll talk about them in just a bit. But in terms of the rotation guys that are more likely to move, that are maybe not the big swing guys, they're mostly going to be the bigs that we're seeing out there. And the Bulls right now are trying to drive a bidding war for Nikola Vucevic. However, he's not the only big on the market. When we talk about a guy like Jakob Poeltl, the Lakers are rumored to have checked in on Jakob Poeltl. You've got Robert Williams. Nick Richards is already gone, but Jonas Valanciunas, there's other players. Walker Kessler, the Utah Jazz, still driving a high price. Right now, you've got the staring contest. You've got the selling teams that are asking for high prices, the buying teams that are giving low offers, and they're waiting for somebody to blink. Within the next week, that's going to change. And we're going to get buyers are going to come up a little bit, sellers are going to come down a little bit, and then hopefully you reach a point where you can get some deals. But Vucevic has been great for the Bulls. For months now, we've been hearing second-round picks for Vucevic. Now, suddenly the Bulls are saying, oh, no, he's been too good. We want a first. What do you do there? Can the Bulls get a first from somebody for Nikola Vucevic?
Well, I mean, I've said this before, like statistically, he profiles as a guy that you would trade a first for, but there are concerns there, like the age and like your favorite, the regression potentially happening. Like if he's traded to LA, you might as well take 10% off what he's shooting now, because it's going to happen.
Sad but true.
He's going to go to LA and like most other guys and just go down about 10%, unfortunately. But no, he profiles that way, but I just don't see it happening, because of the concerns with that stuff, the age, most notably, he's not going to be a part of a team's long-term future. So if they do get a first, it's probably a very, very heavily protected first. Other than that, I just can't see it, but good on them for trying to up the price. I mean, he's been one of their best assets this year, and the market is very big player centric, and he is one of the main names on the market that could potentially come in as a ceiling raiser for basically any team he could be plugged into that needs a big. But also, another concern with him too is that he's playing too good to be your backup center. Like whatever team's going to get him, it's going to have to plug him in for better or worse as the starting center on their team. I mean, if you could talk him into being a backup, that'd be great if you already have a good center on your team. But if you're a team like, again, the Lakers, you could argue whether or not you want this. AD would say yes, obviously. I don't really have much of a problem with it, especially optionality. But he's actually my favorite target for them anyway, by the way. But you would be getting him with the expectation of him being your starting center for now and probably the next year or two.
And right now, the two main teams that we're hearing are Golden State and the Lakers, but you could slot in just about any team that could really use a big. When we talk about the New York Knicks are a team that could talk themselves into going and getting a big like this. I wonder, could the San Antonio Spurs talk themselves into doing something and putting Vucevic next to Wemby if they're trying to really make some kind of a playoff push here? There's teams out there. The Orlando Magic is one of my favorite landing spots just because he came from Orlando, and they've dealt with some injuries at the position with Mo Wagner now out for the season. And so that would be an interesting one there too. I think that because he's 34, that's going to drive the price. If he's 25, we're talking multiple firsts here, right? You're not doing that. Does nobody care about defense when discussing trade value is a great comment as well. And that's the question, right? Because like if you go for a guy like Vucevic, okay, you're going to get great offense. I mean, the numbers are great, right? And teams tend to pay for numbers like this, 20 and 10, unreal stuff. But defensively, you got some issues there. On the flip side, could you turn to Clint Capella, who's making similar money? He's on an expiring contract, and he gives you more of a defensive presence, certainly more of a shot blocker. Nowhere near the offensive presence of Vucevic, but very similar situations. Older player, but the problem, I mean, older player, but the inverse of Vucevic in terms of giving you defense instead of offense. So that's the other thing. That's what I like for the buyer side of the big market. Is there's a lot of different skill sets out there that you can target depending on what it is you believe your team actually needs. But it's hard to deny that 20 and 10, just being able to say this dude puts up 20 and 10, that's going to drive a lot of interest.
Yeah, I think he is one of the more polarizing players because I do think that the offensive value, depending on which team he goes to anyway, would outweigh the negative defense. Because make no mistake, I do think he's one of the worst defensive centers that's available right now, and I think it's pretty obvious that that's the case. But the rebounding, I think that's a form of defense. Closing the positions or possessions out would be helpful, depending on again the team he goes to. But I think the offense can outweigh it, and I think the most important thing is how much do you need like an actual shot blocking rim protector on whatever team he would go to. And if you need that, then yeah, you would want to pivot towards somebody else like Clint Capella, if that's what you're specifically trying to get. But I do think that the shooting, the offensive ability is very valuable. So it's not that we don't consider defense when you talk about value of a player. I just think that most people probably consider, and unless you're going for a defensive guy, most people probably consider offense and statistics first, as opposed to looking deeper in for defense, because outside of steals and blocks, you got to kind of dig for defense.
Well, and back in the day, it would have been, well, defense is what you need primarily out of your big. That's not today. Today, you need everybody needs to be able to defend at a high level. I do. Is regression already hitting, though? Look at his 3-point shooting for the month of January. 30%, and I'm rounding up to get there, 29.6%, 51% from the field. Has regression already hit Vucevic? And is that part of the reason why we haven't seen him moved yet by the Bulls? Because teams are just going, yep, look, that's it. That's it. It's already happening, and we're not going to give a first.
I mean, he's shooting 30% here in this month. That's not been great. You're getting your wish. You spoke this into existence.
It's my fault. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be interested to look at his attempts. I'm gonna have to get on and look at him per synergy and see what that looks like. If he's getting like super contested attempts or what it is, what's changed? Is he just missing open shots? I'm curious about that. You could dig a little bit more into that. But yeah, I mean, potentially, sure, that could be happening. But I do like the overall field goal percentage from him, even with the 3-point shooting going down.
Absolutely. And I wonder if the field goal percentage would go up if he was on a team that didn't need him to provide so much of the offense. Yeah.
That was my point.
Yeah. And then Jonas Valanciunas, another name that's still out there. I know the Wizards will be a seller on him. They signed him in order to trade him. That's really what they were doing. I'm just not that excited. Out of the bigs that are out there, like I would rather take the gamble on Robert Williams if I'm a team and he's making similar money to Jonas. I would rather take the gamble on Robert Williams than go after Jonas.
It's tricky. Like you get reliability with Jonas, which there's value in that. You just have a much higher like upside short term and long term if you have a healthy Rob. But the thing is he's not ever healthy. Like we talk about some guys that miss a lot of games. He's one of those guys. So, if you're a team that needs consistency, I would probably say Val is the better player to go for if you're looking for a consistent 10, 15 minutes per night center. But I would be lying to you if I said that it wasn't enticing what you could potentially, in theory, get from Rob.
Yeah. Yeah. Robert Williams, if he can just stay healthy, man. Stay healthy.
That's just how it is for some guys. They just never are able to really stay healthy.
Yeah. It's a real problem. I mean, maybe that may apply to Jared Vanderbilt here when we'll see when he returns. Hopefully tomorrow.
He hasn't even played yet. Don't do that.
Man. Miguel said, third show today, Trev. We appreciate the dedication. Well, thank you. Have a great dinner later. Get ready for that Butler notification. I joked earlier, Donnie, I'm planning on taking my wife out to dinner tonight. And I am pretty certain that is when whatever NBA news, whatever big trade is primed and ready to go, that is when it will break. That tends to be the case.
Yeah, probably. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully not. But I wouldn't doubt it.
I'll have to start bringing a mic with me or something. Mamadou said, hey, Trevor, what do you think about a trade that can land us Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl? So I wanted to mention this one right now because we're on the topic of bigs. Jakob Poeltl is another guy that is, at least his name is out there. I don't know how motivated the Raptors are actually to trade him. But I'll tell you this, Don, I think I move him to the top of my list if he's really available. If he's really available, because I think he's very, very good. He can give you, he's not a great defensive player, but he's better certainly than Vucevic. I mean, 1.2 blocks per game, 1.2 steals, 15 points, great percentage, 60%, 61% from the field. No, he's not a three-point shooter. It doesn't give you much floor spacing, but 15 and 10 on great percentages, plus the steal, plus the blocks. I think Jakob Poeltl is maybe the name we're not talking enough about when we're looking at guys that teams should be willing to give up a little bit more to go get. If he is actually available and Toronto is willing to budge on him, I'd slot him ahead of Vucevic. I'd slot him ahead of anybody else that's out there that's realistically available in the center market. And if I am any team looking for a big, I'm not expecting to find success, but I'm damn sure making the call on Jakob Poeltl.
I like him a lot. Do you actually think he'd be out there?
Maybe. I think that it would be an opportunistic thing for the Raptors, where if it was a strong offer, like I don't think they have to, he's 29 years old. They know they're not going to be good for a bit. They don't have to trade him, but they don't have to keep him. It's kind of like the Cam Johnson situation with the Brooklyn Nets. Very similar to that, where if it's the right offer, sure, I think I could see them do it. But I think they can also very convincingly say, yeah, we don't have to move at all. We'll just keep him.
Yeah. He's probably like, if you could get him, he's probably like the best of both worlds option available, potentially anyway, for a center. No, he's not a spacer, but he's efficient around the rim. Gives you about, like, right now he's given 15 points and 10 rebounds this year, having a career year, basically, 15 and 10, but he's also a decent rim protector. Like, he's a little bit of the best of both worlds, I think. And he's good positionally too. Like, that doesn't really show up in the blocks so much. He's also getting a steal per game, by the way, which is interesting. Yeah. He's good positionally. Like, he knows where to be, how to contest, uses big frame. So I would like him a lot. Would you actually, we talked about Vooch and a first. Would you add a first for Jakob?
Oh yeah. Yes. No question. I would do it first.
Or just flat first?
I'd want to put, I mean, we're talking like top 5 protected or something like that. Like, you wouldn't be able to put really heavy protections on it. But yeah, I would definitely be willing to go for a first for Poeltl. But just, he's young enough to where you could say, all right, we've got our starting center for the next 4 years, 5 years, whatever. And that's
on the 80 timeline if you were the Lakers and you needed him.
Sure.
But a lot of teams, 29, he's at the perfect age, right in the heart of his prime. You could have him for a while.
Yeah. Now I've got Mamadou did ask about a Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl trade, where that's where you've got like $43 million in salary. When you stack those two up, that's a lot. It does seem like the Bruce Brown's played well the last few games, but the market for him hasn't been as strong as I think the Raptors wanted. And so now they're pivoting to potentially using him in a deal to help facilitate a Jimmy Butler trade. And we'll talk a bit more about him in just a minute, but that's kind of where they're looking, is being like a third, a fourth, maybe even a fifth team in a bigger trade, and using Bruce Brown, using Chris Boucher as expiring contracts in a trade.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a comment here from Shaka Zulu Galaxy. It says, what news have you heard about the Kings or potential trades that would help? Actually, I haven't heard anything since they started winning and playing better ball. Overall, for the most part, aside from the Cam Johnson stuff, that's pretty much the only thing that's been out there.
That's the thing with Sacramento, right? They are right now, they lost their last game, but they're 8-2 in their last 10. So I think that's taken away some of the, the desperation to make a trade. But Cam Johnson is an interesting one for them to continue pursuing. But what we're seeing is right now, all we've heard is, Brooklyn wants 2 picks, right? And obviously nobody's willing to give that because he's still a Brooklyn net. But Brooklyn wants 2 picks. But we've also seen now, in response to that, OKC, Cleveland, and now Sacramento have all kind of like slowly backed away from the Cam Johnson trade front. So that's an interesting shift here, I think. Oh, John Collins. That's right. There was
I forgot.
I
did that video too, and I was like, wait a minute, I forgot all about John Collins.
There was that one. But it appears that right now the asking price for the Nets is simply too high. Now, we've also seen the Nets. They asked for a first for Schroeder, they took seconds. They asked for a first for Finney-Smith, they took seconds. If they asked for 2 firsts for Cam Johnson, do they ultimately take 1 first? Now, they are telling everybody who will listen, no, this is different. This is not the same as those guys. Those guys are older players. They were on expiring contracts. Finney-Smith has a player option, but ending contracts. And that's not the case with Cam Johnson. We don't have to trade him at all. We might just keep him. We are losing plenty of games right now as is, so we don't need to get him off the roster to lose more. And so we don't have to trade him, so we are demanding 2 firsts. And they are stomping their feet and telling everybody who will listen they are not budging. We'll see if that's true. I think right now teams are waiting to call their bluff, and they're waiting for Brooklyn to blink a little bit. And I think if a team like the Kings can get him, they will. They just won't give up 2 firsts to do it.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. I think he would fit there, but like we've said with him a lot, I think he could fit on basically any team that targets him. But if you're Sacramento, I mean, you're kind of living out the real life winning cures all, because things have been very quiet as it pertains to them, aside from the Collins thing. What do you think about Collins specifically as a target? Because I do think that they still do need a big over there as well, and I think he would fit pretty good. But the rumor, if I remember correctly, was that they would have to give up Lyles as well, which I didn't really love.
I would give up Lyles if it meant giving up.
You have to do it, but I wouldn't like it.
I am a John Collins. Admittedly, I am biased towards John Collins. I'm a fan. I liked his game in Atlanta. I thought that he was sitting on the trade market for way too long. I like John Collins, so I think he's now. I'll tell you, even though it was that said, I don't even like his contract that much. It's a little. I think he's a bit overpaid. Yep. $26.5 million, but $26.5 million next season as a player option. You have to imagine he's picking that up. He's going to pick up that player option, stacking up enough salary to go get him.
It's Lyles and Herter.
Lyles and Herter. I mean, if that's the cost, if it's Lyles and Herter, done, right? Now, you're going to have to include some draft capital, I would imagine, and everything. But if you can get Collins, if you're Sacramento, I mean, I know he's not a defensive player. Are you piling on too many offensive players? I don't know. There's some questions about that for sure. He can shoot a bit from outside, but he gives you a bit more on the boards. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Jazz to move on from him right now while they can. Maybe he'll be an expiring contract next year, and so you could use him in that. But I like John Collins. I think he's not being talked about nearly enough. I think part of it is you have to stack up a lot of salary to go get him at $26 million. But if you're the Sacramento Kings and you can take 2 players that are just kind of so-so in Herter and in Lyles, and you can turn him into just simply a better player, a more talented player in John Collins, yeah, I'd be looking to do that.
Yeah, my only problem with that is Lyles is a nice glue guy for them, but I would do the trade, but they still would need a big because they don't play Len at all, and they use Lyles as their backup center. So you would ideally just have Collins plug into the same role, but they would still need to get it like another big, because everything at that point would just be Collins and Sabonis, and I think you probably want to have a rotation of a third one if possible. But again, Len does not play, and when he does, they are abysmally bad. So,
yeah, that's where maybe Sacramento winds up being a buyer on the market looking for another big. But you look at what Collins is doing this year: 18 points, 8.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.1 steals, shooting 53% from the field. I mean, obviously it's not sustainable, but 44%, 45% from 3.
Yeah,
like it's on low attempts.
He's doing the thing where you're shooting like 3 or 4 attempts, and I just want to see you shoot like a couple more to see if it's real or not.
But that's just it. Like if I'm John Collins, I'm like, I'm not going to shoot very much anymore because I'm gonna keep this percentage nice and pristine. So if I'm John Collins, now I'm being super selective with my shot attempts because I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah, I want to see him shoot 6 to see if it's real. How about that?
That's fair. He's a decent shooter from behind the arc. He can knock him down. He can give you some scoring burst. I do like John Collins. I think he'd be a nice fit for a lot of teams. Let's go over here to Senpai. Said Toronto gets Rui, Gabe, JHS, Nurkic, and a first. I'm assuming from the Lakers here, and one from Phoenix. Okay, so Toronto's getting a lot of pieces there. You've got what? Maybe a neutral to negative value in Gabe, certainly a negative value in Nurkic with another year at almost $20 million on the books. The Lakers get Bruce Brown, Yaka Pirtle, and Tyus Jones. Okay. And then the Suns get Jared Vanderbilt and Davion Mitchell. Now, if you're the Suns, though, you're essentially taking Nurkic's salary
and turning him into them.
And you're turning him into Jared Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's got more time on the books than Nurkic. Nurkic has next year, and then he expires, right? Like that's what we're looking at with him. So you clear that salary relatively quickly. We look at Jared Vanderbilt, who I think could help the Suns, but do you want? He's got 3 years left after this one. So I think it would come down to, do the Suns believe that Jared Vanderbilt can stay healthy? That would be a big piece of it. But you're giving up a lot here from the LA side. Rui, Vando, Gabe, and then JHS is whatever, plus a first-round pick. But you're getting two pieces that I think you're checking both boxes, right, for the Lakers. You're getting a defensive guard. You're getting a big. Are you now thin on the wing, though, if both Rui and Vando go out in the same trade?
Bruce is your wing.
I mean, he's your guard / wing.
Yeah, he's like a little swing man, I guess. But yeah, it's you may make that argument, but Bruce, DFS, Max, you got a few guys. So I guess, and then also with Jakob, you'd be skewing a bit bigger because he's another guy that I think is a starting center.
Yeah.
So that means as long as LeBron's putting in the effort, he's another wing for you. I mean, he's still no matter what a wing. But yeah, I think that works. Also, there's been a lot of talk about Bruce specifically. I just wanted to bring up, what's the obsession with Bruce? He's been awful for that contract 2 seasons straight. Anybody looks good next to Jokic, and Brown is so overrated. What do you think about that?
So Bruce Brown, I think he has started to return to form recently. Last few games, in fact, he's been a lot better. But I don't know if he'll ever get back to being Denver Bruce Brown. And that's the player that we all know, that we all remember, that was really, really good, super switchy defensively, can create a little bit. I think with him, if you're a team and you're deciding, do you want to trade for Bruce Brown or not? You're looking at these last 3 games,
they've all
17, 15, 18. So you're scoring in the mid-teens in points. You got 4 assists, 5 assists, 0 assists one game, but you're getting rebounds. You're doing Bruce Brown things, right? You're giving a little bit of everything, giving some steals, doing some things out there. You have to look at that and say, is this just now he's got his legs under him now that he's returned from injury? Or is this just a blip on the radar? And what you believe there will determine what you think about him and whether or not you go for him. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, that he will not be the Denver version of him, but he can be pretty good and he can certainly help a team. And it doesn't hurt that he's an expiring contract as well. So I think that the last few games will help on the trade market. I think there's a lot of teams that could use him, but it will come down to the eye of the beholder. And do you buy this, or do you think the guy that he was all the games he played before this is more really what he is?
Yeah, that's true. And also, I think with Bruce, he's a connective player. He's not going to ever do anything really that's going to jump out at you. He's a solid defensive player, solid ball mover. He's just more of a glue guy out there. Really good rebounder, just more of a glue guy out there. We always go to Denver because he won a chip there. He was huge for them, obviously. He played a probably, like you were saying, above what he truly is. Some of that's just opportunity next to Jokic, right? He also was hitting some crazy shots, I thought, that year in the playoff run. But
he was.
But, it is what it is. But I thought he was really good prior to that in Brooklyn. So if he's just able to play a similar role where he's going to just be consistent, like I said, be a glue guy, give you 9-10 points, 3-4 rebounds, couple assists, compete on the defensive end, then you're good. I think that's all that you really need. And when you look at his, I don't know if you could pull it up here, but I was looking at his cleaning the glass from his time in Brooklyn. Sure. he was good on the defensive end, and they were a little bit worse on offense with him out there. But if he's hitting his open shots, then I think you can make it work. Like, I don't know that he's overrated. He's absolutely overpaid, right? He's absolutely overpaid. He's more of like a MLE guy, but they signed him that way explicitly
On
so they
purpose.
could have that and trade him. That's what it is. But I don't know that he's overrated.
Yeah, I mean he's overpaid for sure, but the Pacers knew what they were doing. They knew they were overpaying him. They gave him the contract they did for a reason. The Raptors picked up his salary not because they think he's worth $23 million, but because they wanted a $23 million trade chip on their books. You can see his points per shot attempt not good, but then when you go look at like his rebound, I mean rebounding has been great relative to his position as a wing. 87th percentile. He's been a good rebounder for the position. Fouls are a bit high, so that hurts you, but he does get steals. Hasn't been blocking shots. Again, this is where you go back to his Denver days. He was actually blocking shots at a decent rate. But in
Brooklyn
general,
as well, too. See, it's just since Denver, but prior to Denver, too, he was there.
well, remember with Brooklyn, they tried using him as like a super small ball center a little bit. And so that changed his responsibilities
but look at the Detroit as well. Like,
yeah.
It really has just been in the last couple years. So if he's healthy and able to play the way he was before, and it's not just like Denver was just a blip, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
he was just the best version of himself in Denver.
Absolutely. He played above what he'll be. Like, but if he's 85% of that, then I think that's a good player.
Oh, sure. Sure. Yeah. 85% of that. Yeah, he'd be really good. All right, let's see what else we can get into here. I know we've got a number of topics still to explore. Let's go here. Frobius said, Houston, Brooklyn, the Rockets send Jock Landale, Jayshawn Tate, Aaron Holiday, 27 first, a Phoenix 27 first. That could have some real value here. I mean, what do you think Kevin Durant is going to be in 2 years? A 27 Brooklyn first and a second swap. Okay. For Cam Johnson and Jalen Wilson. So is it just me? Like, I feel like that might even be a little bit too much for the Rockets to pay.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of an overpay.
I think that's a little bit much. And I don't mind the Rockets as a landing spot for Cam Johnson. I mean, pretty much just about any place could be a good landing spot for him. I don't mind it, just giving up the 2 firsts, I think is kind of a lot, especially I'm worried if I am the Brooklyn Nets, if I'm the Rockets in this and I'm giving up that Brooklyn first in particular, like what are the Brooklyn Nets going to be in 2027?
Yeah, both of those picks could potentially be pretty good, because what's the chances Phoenix has to blow up this team, by then? Like, I don't know. So that uncertainty, I think, is pretty interesting. So I think that may be a bit of an overpay. And then there's second in the swap, right? So there's a lot.
So as Senpai says, protect the first, then maybe you do it. Yeah, that might be a good adjustment there.
Do that.
If you could protect the first, then you could do something like that. All right, I've got another super chat to get to. Then I've got, I want to talk a little bit about the Jimmy Butler of it all. Mikkel said, Rob owes it to the team and the fans to do something meaningful. With Russ breaking the 2020 team, losing people like Taurean Prince, Dinwiddie, etc. Teams like the Suns and Brooklyn found a way. The Lakers do the same. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a little bit on Lakers Nation, but there's a point where just you're the Lakers. Like, that has to matter. You have to be creative and figure out a way to get it done, because that's the expectation, because that's the bar that you've set historically. You've set that expectation yourselves. So at some point, we can talk about how difficult it is to make moves under the CBA. We can talk about the tough hand they've been dealt, the tough hand they've dealt themselves in the position they put themselves in. But at some point, it doesn't feel great to have two top, worst 15 guys in LeBron James and Anthony Davis and still say, no, we're not quite a contender. And have been kind of stuck in that spot for a while now. So, I think they have to find a way, whether or not, like, how confident are you in the front office's ability to land the pieces that they need, Donnie?
Well, I think what they need is a sliding scale because I swear, like we'll play one team and it looks like they need this, and then we'll play another team. It's like, oh, they actually need that, and it's like, okay, well, I guess they need multiple things. So
They
if
do.
that's the case, then there's no way that they're gonna. Well, I don't think there's any way that they'll patch all their deficiencies in one go right now, especially with the reporting that they haven't been as aggressive. They're potentially not going to be including first. Then you're not going to be able to fix all this stuff. And it just is what it is. But hopefully they can take steps towards that, and show some good faith to the fans that are interested in them kind of, trying to take a step forward.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about here before we completely leave the Bruce Brown situation, it's the Nuggets. This is from Brett Siegel, maybe looking to try to bring Bruce Brown back. So what do you think about with that? The Nuggets are looking to potentially shed some salary, make sure they are move out of the first apron so that they could potentially pick up Bruce Brown if he gets bought out as a buyout market player.
I mean, we know what that looks like. so they should try to go for it because it looked pretty good. So I think that would be an interesting idea, but I feel like we heard that previously, hadn't we? I feel like we've heard that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of been a common thing around the market that some teams might want to drop below to participate in the buyout market, but the problem is you can't know who's actually going to get bought out.
No, the
ahead
Bruce
of time.
Brown Nuggets piece. I feel like we've heard that before.
Oh, the Bruce Brown Nugget piece. Yeah, I mean that's been a thing. They've been linked to wanting to get back to him, but if they feel like specifically they don't have to trade for him, that he's not going to be moved by the Raptors, and he's going to get bought out, or he's going to get traded to a team that will buy him out. And then the Nuggets want to move below the first tier apron so they can sign it, because above the first tier apron they can't sign him because he's above an MLE guy.
Yeah.
So if they drop below that apron, they can sign a buyout player even if they make more than the MLE. But that would be a big gamble, I think, by the Nuggets. Try to shed salary and then hope that Bruce Brown gets bought out so you can sign him. But that would be an awesome addition for Denver if they can get him.
Who's the salary? Najee? It's always Najee.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
So, yeah, that could be interesting. But, yeah, if they got him, then, like I said, we know what that looks like. So, that would be good. And I think they could use another tough defensive wing. So, I'll take it.
Yeah. Let's go. Oh, really? This is kind of a funny aside. Who are your favorite WWE superstars of all time?
Never really got into it too much. My uncle was really big on it. Growing up, we're only about 5 years apart. So growing up, I was always hanging out with him, and he was really into like Triple H and all that. And I realized it wasn't real, and I was like, I don't like this anymore. So
I got big into wrestling for a while during the Stone Cold, the Attitude Era, and all that kind of stuff. My favorites were always The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Those were my two. Those are my two.
I liked the Undertaker with he's Kane's brother and all that stuff.
Oh, that was so
I like
cool.
The storylines. Yeah, that was pretty fun. I mean, I was like 8 years old, but it was fun.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't say Chris Masters, although it's been fun getting to know Chris Masters, Scorpio Sky, all those guys, because boy, they have some great stories of their time in WWE wrestling and doing all that. All right. One of the things that we need to talk about here is the Jimmy Butler situation and kind of what's going on. And people are asking, well, why is the market not moving? Well, first of all, it's actually already been a very active market. Like I've got like these negative Nancy's out there saying, oh, it's going to be a dud of a trade market. Nothing's going to happen. We've already had a bunch of stuff happen. We've already had 4 trades happen. I know a lot of people are just kind of that, what have you done for me lately type mindset. We've already had 4 trades happen before the deadline. That is not normal. That is very much not normal. That's a very active market already. But what's happening right now is I think a lot of teams that are ready to make moves, they're waiting for Jimmy Butler to get traded because they're waiting to see if they're going to be needed as a 3rd team, a 4th team, a 5th team, whatever, in a Jimmy Butler trade. They will only wait for so long. But right now, the whole Jimmy Butler situation, kind of like we've seen in the past, we saw it with Kevin Durant years ago, where Kevin Durant essentially freezed the NBA offseason with his whole trade situation. The Jimmy Butler situation seems to be at least slowing down everything because it's taken a few teams off of the market for the time being while they're on hold to wait to see if they need to get involved in the Jimmy Butler trade. Not trading for Butler, but being a third, fourth, fifth team, whatever, in the trade. So that's what is happening right now. That will only last for so long. At some point, teams will say, well, we can't wait any longer. We're going to go do what we need to do. But I don't think the relative lack of activity right now is an indication that there's not going to be activity by the trade deadline. If anything, the 4 trades that have been made already, to me, suggest we're going to see a fairly active trade market.
Yeah, it does seem like that is what's kind of happening here, is that these teams, that's just projected to potentially be such a big deal that you have to kind of see what happens with that and then move accordingly afterwards. I'm really going to be, I'll tell you, man, I'm going to be really let down if it winds up being like just a regular 2-team trade and it's nothing fancy and it's like, where was all that build up and all this stuff? And I mean, that's probably what's happening here, but we talked about it when we got the first couple trades like Schroeder and some of those trades around that time, how we were getting started kind of early with moving trades, and we saw a couple trades faster than we typically see them anyway, but then it kind of slows down. You get a couple more trades with DFS, Nick Richards, and those are, ones from the last couple of weeks. But I think what it is that there's a very clear, like, what's the word? There's a lot of like spin with some of the stars going on right now. And I think that's also holding it up. It's just, there's so much when it comes to like people want to see this stuff happen already because it's been talked about for so long. But, they've got the Jimmy situation, the BI, is he or isn't he getting re-signed or traded? Levine, is he or isn't he? Because now apparently he's a name out there on the market. Some of these
and now he's putting out there that he doesn't even really want to be traded. Zach Levine.
It's just so much spin going on right now. People are like, dude, just make the trades and make it happen. So I get that, but we've seen some trades.
Yeah, we've seen some stuff go down already. I know people get impatient with this stuff, and you hear a lot of rumors and everything, and you want to hear, okay, this deal got done. I do think it's the Jimmy Butler situation that is slowing some things down right now, preventing some moves from happening. But I do think we're going to see some stuff get done by the deadline, because again, teams will only wait so long. Jimmy is hell-bent right now in trying to get to Phoenix. That's not an easy process. Who knows? It could happen any minute now that he could get traded, or maybe it takes another week. We have no idea how long it's going to take to get this done. I still think he ultimately gets moved, but right now I think once Jimmy moves, it'll set off a chain effect where we're going to get a number of other deals that happen where it kind of unlocks some things, and then we see some other stuff happen.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if with Jimmy, the question with him is it the Phoenix trade or is it elsewhere? But I think that's the main sticking
Memphis.
point. He's trying to stop. He's trying to get to Phoenix so bad, but it's like, the Beal situation, and I don't know. There was talk about Milwaukee being in on it. That's why I said I'm gonna be so let down, because even today it was Zach Levine and Beal or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna be so let down with all this stuff if we don't get something interesting. But yeah, I do think that once we see Jimmy specifically moved, then all this stuff will start going. It's not even so much about the other guys. It's mainly just the Jimmy situation. But to be fair, because his contract is so large, some of these guys get wrapped up in it too. So we'll see what happens.
This comment said, I hope my Pelicans trade CJ and BI. Yeah, those are the two big ones. I think they absolutely should. They should definitely try to. And as soon as they do that, I think that should be their main goal. Obviously, Ingram would be, but the rumor right now on Ingram is that his market hasn't changed. Like, nobody's interested. And the problem is he doesn't want to take less than 50 mil. He wants a lot of money, and just nobody wants to pay him that. Like, he's a good player. And I think part of it too is he's been injured, so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind type thing too. But he's a good player. But he just wants too much money under the new CBA. And I get it from Brandon Ingram's perspective, because, man, under the old CBA, you're getting that money, no problem. You're getting that money from the Pels probably. But under the new CBA, you just can't give him that. And so he's just kind of stuck right now, unless another team says, you know what, we are a Brandon Ingram away from really making a run. Let's just bite the bullet. Let's do it. Let's go get him. If he has to walk away as a free agent. And similar situation to Jimmy Butler in that, I mean, if BI goes into free agency this summer, where's he going to go? Do the Nets want him? Maybe, but probably not. Are they ready to stop their tank and start trying to win? Probably not. Do the Wizards want him? Maybe, but probably not. They're not ready to go do anything. They look more like the Washington Generals right now. So I don't know what's going to happen with BI, but something has to give. Either he's got to come off that number. Otherwise, I don't know how he moves off of the Pelicans. And the Pels don't want to be and they shouldn't. The Pels don't want to be the team to give him that money. So it's just this giant staring contest. Something needs to give here for him to wind up somewhere else and eventually get a new deal.
Yeah, that's like you said, under the new CBA, he would have got it. And I think that's the problem with this, is that he wasn't able to get the extension prior, and he's going to have to come to terms with the fact that he's not going to be able to get that 50 million plus extension.
You know what I wonder is if we ultimately see a compromise where he takes less years and a little bit less money. Like, could he do 2 years, 80?
Well, that's always been what I thought could be an option for some of these guys that want like Jimmy too. It's okay, well, give me a 1 year balloon or a 2 year balloon instead of 4 or 5 years, so I can get the money at least at the number that I want. That is something we don't really talk about very often, but I think that's possible for sure.
Yeah, he could do something like that, get back out on the market in a couple of years. The caps continue to go up. Maybe there'll be more teams with cap space. The situation might change, and then you go do something like that. That could be, like a Fred VanVleet deal, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. Okay. Any last comments before? Let me see. Was there anything else we wanted to get into today? I think that was just about everything. You know what, guys? Well, obviously, we've had a lot of content coming out lately. It's that time of the year, right? We've got trade rumors, all kinds of stuff happening all the time. You guys know, in general, we're going to give you a lot of more like opinionated content, takes and stuff on different things happening around the NBA, going over all the latest news and all that kind of stuff. That's what to expect here on the channel. Right now, we've got a lot of trade stuff going on. So, of course, we're pretty focused there. But make sure you do subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button for us, too, before we wrap up here. Hit that like button. We sure would appreciate it. Donnie, I can't wait. We are now less than 2 weeks, and I have a feeling we're gonna get some stuff going on here before the trade deadline. I can't wait for all of this.
Man, you keep saying that, and you make me want to not I'm questioning whether I'm allowed to go to sleep now, because you keep saying that. I'm like, man, the second I go to sleep, they're gonna pop this trade. It's gonna be like
I did it. I slept for like 5 hours last night. I wake up and you're like, did you see this, and this?
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
There was so much stuff. It all came out at like 7 a.m. too, Pacific time. I was like, oh, people
so inconsiderate.
Yeah, that's
what's
going to happen here. So make sure that you guys keep it locked in with the channel. We're going to be posting this stuff as it comes out, so you guys don't want to miss anything that we do going forward. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll of course have some new stuff out tomorrow. But till then, see ya and stay safe.